The investigation into the truth behind the seven signs prophecy has already uncovered a massive amount of evidence. To devout believers in the prophecy, the meaning of that evidence is clear.
God just sends sign after sign, event after event, trying to wake people up.
To these evangelical Christians, it reveals God's master plan for the destruction of the world and the second coming of Jesus Christ.
The book of Revelation is meant to paint a picture of the total devastation of the earth in preparation for the day of judgment.
Incredibly, modern science confirms many of the doomsday scenarios foretold in these mysterious prophecies.
Scientists agree that many of the features of the end of the world may resemble phenomenon, catastrophes that are described in Revelation.
We also now know that the prophecy builds into a crescendo of disasters. A series of seven within seven within seven more signs. All of this is terrifying enough, and yet there are still more signs to investigate. Indeed, the next sign threatens something so important that without it, life on Earth would cease to exist. Our sun rises each day, bringing light, warmth, and life. Our world relies on the sun's rays for its very existence. But as the seven signs continue to unfold, what happens when the sun and stars instead bring death, devastation, and darkness? Biblical prophecy predicts that when the fourth trumpet sounds, hell will break loose in the heavens.
And I beheld, when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, the sun became black as the sackcloth of hair.
Book of Revelation, Revelation 6, verse 12. The sixth sign, the darkening of the sun.
You have the sun turning dark and the moon turning towards blood. It's a transitional period into what would be called the wrath of God or the Great Tribulation.
When the prophecies talk about the sun turning dark, I don't think it's going to be anything that's caused by man. I think this is God, in essence, turning the light out.
The sun has been an object of fear and veneration for humankind since the beginning of time. Solar eclipses are such terrifying experiences for our ancestors that they often unleash widespread panic. But the dire predictions of this sign warn of something more than the temporary effects of an eclipse. Could the sixth sign mean that our sun might be darkened permanently? Could we plunge into a cosmic darkness so devastating that it would be interpreted by many as an act of God or a sign of the apocalypse? Surprisingly, scientists say that the possibility does exist. And ironically, a planet-wide darkness could start with the brightest light in the universe.
Gamma ray is a part of the electromagnetic spectrum. It's basically light.
Gamma rays are created by electromagnetic radiation and are emitted during radioactive decay.
If normal light is like a feather hitting you on the cheek, a gamma ray is like a bullet. A single gamma ray photon has 1 billion times the energy of a visible light photon. That's what makes them dangerous. If they impact a cell, they can disrupt the cell. If they impact DNA, they can actually shatter or alter the DNA molecule.
While gamma rays were discovered over a century ago, we are only now just starting to learn how deadly they can be. As Dr. Neil Garrels explains, the big breakthrough in gamma ray research comes during the Cold War.
Nuclear weapons produce flashes of gamma rays. And in 1962, President Kennedy signed the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty with the Soviets. And this treaty outlawed testing of nuclear weapons above the Earth's atmosphere. The United States built a series of satellites to monitor this treaty. So these satellites had gamma ray detectors on them. And lo and behold, they actually discovered flashes of gamma rays.
But the gamma rays are not coming from Russia.
Multiple satellites would see the flash at the same time, and it wasn't coming from the Earth. It was coming from deep space.
When scientists finally locate the source of these rays, they discover one of the largest explosions in the universe, the gamma ray burst.
Gamma ray bursts are second really only to the Big Bang as far as energy output. As far as we know, there are no bigger explosions in the universe. It's caused by a supernova, a very massive star that explodes. The inner part of the star collapses down and it forms a black hole right at the center. And what happens is it focuses twin beams of energy that shoot out in opposite directions from the black hole itself. They're like cosmic blowtorches, death rays. These things scream out at the speed of light, and the energy that is packed into these beams is staggering. It's unimaginable.
In roughly 10 seconds, these two tightly focused beams transmit more energy than our sun will emit over its entire 15 billion year lifespan.
There are almost 1 million of these going off every day. This is happening all the time.
You can talk about asteroid impacts, you can talk about solar flares, you can talk about black holes passing through the solar system. But I think pound for pound, you don't get anything more terrifying than a gamma ray burst.
Anything within 1,000 light years that lies in the path of gamma ray beams is simply vaporized. Fortunately, there are no stars close enough to vaporize our planet. But the radiation from a gamma ray burst even several thousand light years away can still devastate the Earth. In fact, there's evidence that our planet may have already been hit.
Several 100 million years ago, back when the trilobites were the kings of the Earth, these little crab-like guys that were swimming around in the ocean, it's possible that a gamma ray burst actually went off close enough to the Earth to wipe out these trilobites and a lot of life on the Earth. This was one of the biggest mass extinctions. It was even bigger than the one that wiped out the dinosaurs.
A nearby gamma ray burst will clearly pose a danger to life on our planet. But according to prophecy, the sun and moon will be darkened. How can this blinding flash of light send our world into darkness? The answer lies 8,000 light years away.
The star is called WR104. It's a funny name, but that's what we call it. And it's close enough to hurt us, and it may be aimed at us.
It's reaching the end of its lifetime, and it could, any year, blow up.
So what will happen if this distant star explodes?
You would have literally no warning, because gamma rays themselves are light. And so they're traveling at the speed of light, and since nothing can travel faster, as soon as they hit the Earth, that's it. That's our warning. So basically, we would see it, and that would be it.
Even though it's 8,000 light years away, WR104 could trigger a devastating change in our skies. Strangely enough, it's this massive blast of light that could plunge us into the darkness foretold by the 7 signs.
A gamma ray burst alters the Earth's atmospheric chemistry. It can create a layer of what is essentially smog, a thick, reddish-brown, dark layer of smog that would block sunlight, and that would actually lower the Earth's temperature. It could cause an ice age.
Photosynthesis will be interrupted. Plants across the globe will die. It's also possible the sudden change will wipe out the critical bottom layer of the food chain.
Changing the microscopic life in the ocean changes the very base of the food chain. If you were to kill all of the plankton in the ocean in a very short period of time, life would stop immediately.
The whole system collapses. It's a big chain. Everything is linked to each other. The whole thing's going to fall apart.
Trapped beneath darkened skies on a frozen, dying planet, the effects of a gamma ray burst will be a nightmare for mankind. One foretold by the Bible centuries ago, a prophecy that for some